always do that. I always like am playing and then I press go and then it's a delay. So then you get to see all of this. All of this is happening. Now I'm watching something that you're not seeing because you've already seen it. So it's all very confusing. Everything's working. Great. Welcome. What month is it? Welcome to the June edition of Fiddle Fridays. We have special guest Mike Block in the wings. I'm really excited for this one.
That ever flew
distant shore. Think of your absent friend. And when the wind blows high and clear, a line to me pray send. And when the wind blows high and clear, pray send your love to me, that I might know by your hand light how time has gone for thee. All right. Beep, beep, beep. Hi, friends. Welcome. If you're just joining us, my name's Kaitlyn Raitz. It says it on my channel. You know that already. This is Fiddle Fridays, June edition. We're going to welcome in... Oh, well, that tune was called Blackest Crow. It is a traditional tune. It's a very sad traditional tune, and I made it a little bit weirder than it's supposed to be. I'm going to invite in my friend Mike Block. Let me tell you a little about him. So Mike Block, he's a pioneering cello player, singer, composer, and educator, passionate about cross-cultural collaboration through music and committed to inspiring individuals and connecting communities. Mike is among one of the first wave of cellists to adopt a strap in order to stand and move while playing. So he invented an amazing strap called the block strap that lets him stand up and sing and dance kind of while he plays. He's also the founding director of the Silk Road Ensemble's Global Musician Workshop and the Mike Block String Camp, which is where I spent a lot of time growing up 10 years ago. He's also on the faculty of Berklee College of Music and the New England Conservatory, and he has a brand new album out with tabla player Sandeep Das called Where the Soul Never Dies. I'm hoping we can get him to play some of that, even though he won't have his tabla player. Here he comes. Here he comes. Do 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 do.
Hello, hello.
Do 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 do.
Hi.
Hi. Ooh, loud.
I'm just muting the you from 5 seconds ago on the YouTube as I was watching along.
Reasonable.
Hi.
Reasonable.
I
Hello.
think we're both in the same space-time continuum now.
Yes, this is lovely.
Beautiful song. My goodness.
Oh, thanks.
I love that song, and it's so cool to hear all the things that you're doing to it and with it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I feel like I really dropped the ball on singing over the pandemic for some reason. And I was like more instrumental stuff, and now I'm wanting to sing again. So
good for you.
Yes.
Sounds beautiful.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
This is great. So, how about we just jump into our first performance with Mike Block, and everyone will notice I've just told them about your cello strap, and here it is.
I am standing. The camera doesn't show me in my full glory, but you can take me at my word that I stand.
All the movement, so.
Yeah. Well, Kaitlyn, I was inspired by this cello hang that you've created. So I have a song actually that I wrote inspired by Pablo Casals.
Yes, he's right there on my wall.
There he is. Okay, so I'll try and kind of stare at him as I perform. So I mean, I was inspired by him, but I actually stole almost all of the lyrics from his memoir, a book called Joys and Sorrows. And so the things he was known for, he was a big humanitarian, apart from being a cellist, right? And so he's kind of just this towering figure for music and also for cellists, obviously. And so for those of you who know anything about Pablo Casals, chances are you do if you're here watching this series. But he was associated with a Catalan folk song. It kind of became like his musical calling card, the Song of the Birds. And he was also kind of famous for like playing Bach chorales on the piano every morning. He said it would like bless the house. So anyway, for those of you who are know those kinds of things about him, you'll hear some references to that in this song which is called When the Birds Sing Along in the Morning. When you grow up, you will see machines that fly. But will they ever cry to be free, dreaming of what could be? Ooh. Ooh. The sense of sunlight, the sound of the sea was the beginning of me. Even grown men cry to be free, dreaming of what could be. But each day I'm reborn, each day I begin again. The music is never the same when the birds sing along in the morning. One ought to think of one as a leaf on a tree. In the autumn you will see the heart is a refugee. But each day I'm reborn, each day I begin again. The music is never the same when the birds sing along in the morning. In the river that passes, in the current I see, in a waves of reflection, my fish waits for me. In the river that passes, in the current I see, in a waves of reflection, my fish waits for me. But each day I'm reborn, each day I begin again. The music is never the same when the birds sing along in the morning. Each day I'm reborn, each day I begin again. The music is never the same when the birds sing along in the morning.
Yes. Yay. Bravo.
Thank you, Kaitlyn.
Isn't it nice to have? I guess have you played some shows since the end of time? times?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I feel like, there was the initial excitement for live streaming.
Oh,
I felt like, did you feel it? The initial excitement for live streaming
so excited.
at the beginning of the pandemic? I mean, so, in this environment, playing solo songs came in pretty handy. When there was nobody else to play with. Um, but my tour calendar is is slowly reassembling. It was those early, like those moments. Actually, just recently, like a month ago, I started noticing some friends starting posting tour calendars online, and my first thought was, "Oh no, we have to put together tours again."
Yeah.
Normal life is it's like I have a baby, as a not so young baby, my 2 year old, right? So it's been a great year to have time with family, and so like for my own sanity, I kind of became very much at peace with being at home and having family time, and now I'm contemplating what life on the road's gonna look like again.
Yeah, I think this last year taught a lot of people about balance, or
Yeah,
like, or it didn't teach people about balance because we went from 100 to 0. But I think that coming out of it is going to be, people are going to crave, there's some things that were really special about the last year, and I think people are craving more of that, and we're going to try to hopefully balance the work
yeah.
home.
Well, the entire music community was forced to see what it was like to stay home for a year, and that's something that most of us just never even knew what that felt like.
Like it would be a pretty big financial thing to not do that, to not tour for a year. But this was a mandatory
Yeah,
not allowed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you got to. I was kind of jealous of everyone who had like a young child over this last year, like especially musicians. I was like, this is really special.
Yeah, I mean, the randomness of where the pandemic hit us all in our personal journey, right? Like, had the pandemic hit 10 years ago, I would have been miserable, and essentially, like, yes, we felt lucky that we had a child to spend time with, and under any other circumstance, we would have felt like we wanted to be home more, right? So I applaud you for like what's cool about the pandemic is people are doing things you wouldn't have thought, right? So even this series, like I don't know if this is a podcast or a video series. I don't know what to call you, but you're a new thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Cool.
definitely. I don't. People, it's like a video podcast almost. And then I was like, should I do a podcast? And
Is
I'm like,
that
I don't know if I can take on another thing. Um,
yeah. Yeah, right.
but what were you gonna ask?
Oh, I was just is there a name for a video podcast like a vodcast or a vidcast?
I mean, those words sound like they exist. If not, here we are.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I love that song. Makes me want to. I never read Casal's memoir. I read The Art of Interpretation.
Okay. I don't think I've read that.
It was fun.
I read the memoir because I wanted to write a song.
Great. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to take that out of the library.
Nice.
Um, I wanted to talk about briefly before our next song. I want to just have for those who don't know about you, kind of, I think I'm calling it this now. Your non-classical. Oh, I guess it could be just cello origin story, like in a nice little tight ball.
Yeah. Okay. This is I go now. I
Yes.
tell my origin story. Well, I grew up playing classical cello, like you do, but it was sort of in high school. Started listening to more other styles, and in college, I did pursue cello in college. So I got my undergrad at Cleveland Institute of Music, and then I did go to graduate school at Juilliard. But I was already kind of confronting my own unhappiness in undergrad, where I think what excited me about playing music was learning new things, and kind of having new experiences with it. And it started to slowly dawn on me that after I learned all six Bach cello suites, that there were no more,
Mhm.
and that after the sonatas and like the standard rep is solid, and the idea of playing the same music for the next 30, 40 years of my career was like the scariest thought I could possibly imagine. And everybody's different for whatever reason. Like I that just held zero interest for me. But yet I was in school to do exactly that. So I was kind of stuck and feeling frustrated because I didn't know what other path there was. I like cello. So I started, attempting to improvise, attempting to compose a little bit. It was all really bad. But, I was trying to like find these other feelings with music. And then I did go to graduate school, even though I knew I didn't want to be a classical cellist. That I just really didn't have any clear vision for what else I should be doing other than what my teachers told me I should be doing. But the good part was going to New York was I just started joining rock bands and like looking on Craigslist and like just trying to do as many different things as I could outside of school. And so that that got me feeling a little bit better about life and that I could imagine a future where I would be happy with music. And then for me, the two transformative things that happened right during during graduate school and towards the end was I got to meet Yo-Yo Ma and the Silk Road Ensemble as a student in a workshop they did in 2004, which was actually I had to miss like my second week of class at Juilliard. Like I just got there, but that I had this cool like workshop with Yo-Yo and the Silk Road Ensemble. I was like, of course I'm gonna go do this, and it was just a life changing experience. And then the next year they invited me to go on tour to Japan with them. So here I was, like, technically still in school, but like getting the most amazing opportunities. And it was not lost on me that the only reason I was even considered for that was because of all the things I did that my teachers didn't tell me to do. Right. And so it was this even though I wasn't ready for the gig, it was like a really early validation that the path I was on was worthwhile. And so I kind of kept trying at it. And then right at the end of school, when I didn't have any idea what I was going to do, I found myself auditioning for Mark O'Connor's Appalachia Waltz Trio. And suddenly I had an actual gig. And he took me to his camps and I started, teaching. And that's where I met you a few years later. And so for me, that was also transformative, not just working with Mark and kind of having, Silk Road Ensemble is a big band, but with Mark, it was a trio, it was more of an intimate professional experience, which was transformative. But going to the camps and meeting and just getting exposed to so many traditions was also very helpful to realize that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel in order to do something that felt meaningful, that there was traditions to learn from, and that there were, camps to learn at. And just like suddenly a path started to coalesce for me, as even though I still keep wandering on my path, but essentially ever since school, like it's just been kind of my mission to keep trying new things and keep learning. And so, writing songs, but also working on improv and learning new musical languages is kind of what I've been doing. Yeah.
Which leads us to your newest collaboration, right?
Right. We talked just off camera. My newest album is actually with an old friend I've been playing with for like a decade now. Almost a decade. Well, essentially, one of my good friends in the Silk Road Ensemble is the tabla player Sandeep Das. He's from New Delhi, India. Well, he was living in New Delhi, India. He ended up moving to Boston, like on his own separately, the same month I moved from Brooklyn to Boston. So we did what anyone would do, Kaitlyn. We started a cello tabla duo.
Classic.
There was no other choice
Yeah.
because we already knew each other from Silk Road Ensemble, and so we were putting together a program. We finally released our first album just like a week ago or so, 2 weeks ago. So people can check that out. And it's been a really meaningful project working with him. Cello and tabla, it's, he brings so much energy and so much like musical information to the table, even though he's not playing unpitched hand drums, essentially. I mean, there's one drone pitch, but so essentially, like, he's got this whole rhythmic universe and I've got this whole melodic universe. And it's odd that for just two of us, and I'm the only one playing pitches, essentially, that we still seem to be able to create a lot of sound, at the very least.
It's a pretty remarkable album. And yeah, I encourage anyone listening to go listen. Like, you can pause this and then go listen to the whole come back if you're not watching in real time. But yeah, it makes me so happy because I always thought that cello and tabla was a great combo. Like when I used to do a bit of touring with I took tabla ensemble in grad school. I
Awesome.
was just like, I needed like a non-classical ensemble, like a
Nice.
non-Western classical ensemble, and the only thing that I could find at McGill to take was the tabla ensemble, which wasn't playing the cello, but I was like, I'll take it.
That's pretty hip. I am not aware of most other schools having tabla ensembles.
I think it is very unique, and the teacher there, his name is Sean Medvetsky, and he's like the percussion teacher, but he went, he spent years in India like
Wow.
learning the tabla, and he took me on tour, and I would accompany him with some lyras, and it was
Very
really
nice.
nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Are you going to play us one of those songs next?
Sure, Caitlin. I will. That's such a great segue. Thank you, Caitlin.
I will.
Yeah, I'll play a song that Sandeep told me to learn when we were putting together our first program. I asked him if there's an Indian song that I could sing. He immediately pointed me to this bhajan, a spiritual song called Raghupati Raghava Rajaram. And it's in Hindi. It's a beautiful song. It's famous because it was Gandhi's favorite song. Partly that's why it's famous. Um, and it has a beautiful message, but I didn't want to sing in Hindi next to Sandeep. I've found myself singing in languages I don't speak next to native speakers multiple times in my life. It's not my favorite situation to be in. So I mashed the song up with an American gospel song that I thought kind of complemented it nicely. So this is a pair of spiritual songs. The American song that I settled on is by Hank Williams, popularized by Hank Williams, Where the Soul Never Dies.
Ah,
And so this is my mashup where I will attempt to ruin two cultures and religions simultaneously.
will you do me a favor, and when you come back, just boop down your gain like one notch? Like it was just right at the peak for the extra loud parts on the last song. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I've,
But it
I've, I've pushed it down a notch.
stinks. But definitely still bring the intensity.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna sing louder now to
Yeah.
compensate. Yeah. To Canaan's land, I'm on my way. Where the soul never dies, where darkest night will turn to day. Where the soul never dies. No sad farewells, no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is love, and the soul never dies, and the soul never dies. Raghupati Raghava Rajaram, Patita Pavan Sitaram. Raghupati Raghava Rajaram, Patita Pavan Sitaram. The roses blooming there for me, where the soul never dies, where I will spend eternity, where the soul never dies. No sad farewells, no tears. No sad farewells, no tear dim eyes, where all is love, and the soul never dies, and the soul never dies. O Raghupatira Gavarajanam Patita Pavan Sitaram Raghupatira Gavarajanam Patita Pavan Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram.
Yes. Such a jam. It's such a jam, Mike.
Thanks, Kaitlyn.
And like the recording with tabla is, it makes my brain explode 'cause it's so good, but it also holds up with, just with just a little solo mic. It sounds really awesome.
Yeah, Sandeep adds a lot, but yeah, I mean, cello and voice is also enough.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so like you I mean, you obviously from listening to the album, you've done your homework and you've like been working like on learning this, language. What if like can you tell me like the ways you've been doing that?
Sure. I mean, I've I've like never gone to India to study like in an immersive way, but I've worked with some Indian musicians and tried to pick up things along the way. But also like I've done like I did do a workshop on Indian music once for like a week or so, um, and obviously working with Sandeep has he's taught me a lot. Um, but even during the pandemic, I started taking some Indian vocal lessons, and
It's
just kind of trying to essentially. I mean, I'm always fighting what's it called, the imposter syndrome, right? So it's like and even Sandeep, when we started the duo, he was like, "We're not gonna play Indian music. The last thing I want you to do is to pretend to be L. Subramaniam, like who he's actually played with, right?" So it's like it's our approach as a project was always, well, I'm not going to make him play Bach with me, and he's not going to make me play Indian music. Whatever we do, we'll just make it our own. And so for me, I mean, that's always the struggle for me in like fusion type cross style projects where people are just happy to have a cellist, around sometimes, just to kind of shake things up. But I've always tried, like even with Silk Road Ensemble or with Mark O'Connor, like I mentioned, it's like even those groups themselves are not traditional. They're contemporary music inspired by traditional music. So I've always tried to be very intentional about into the roots of the things that the music I'm playing is inspired by, so that it feels that maybe I have something legitimate to bring to the table, and I'm not just sort of like doing my parody of Indian music or an impression of what I think Indian music is, but actually trying to speak a little bit of the language, if possible.
Yeah, I mean, from the little I know about it from the studying that I did, I can hear the ornaments and the slides and the inflections, and it's very nice.
Well, thank
Also,
you.
did you turn Brandenburg into like this minor, like repeated melody so that he could take a tabla solo under it?
Yes, I mean, Kaitlyn, you're clued into the scene here with this project, because you already used the word lehra,
Mhm.
which is it's a melodic loop that shows the rhythmic cycle, and it helped during a tabla solo, a percussion solo. It helps them not just know and like hear where they are in the time cycle, but melodically it helps you feel where you are in the time cycle, right? So it's just a beautiful way to keep time for a percussive solo. And so, I've done this for Sandeep in various contexts, and on the album we wanted to feature like a really legit classical tabla solo, because that's a big part of what he brings to the table. But I didn't want to just, like I was saying, I didn't want to pretend I was something I wasn't and just play a standard Indian lehra that he might play with a sarangi player, and then me just trying to do my imitation of sarangi the whole time, right? So I was like, well, let me write an original lehra, but then thinking conceptually about our project, I did take the melody of Brandenburg, and I kind of I modulated it out of what G major. So this is Brandenburg Third Concerto. I transposed it into an Indian rag called Kirvani, which coincidentally is the equivalent of our harmonic minor. So it's like so just putting it into a rag and then splicing it up so that it was in a standard rhythmic cycle for Sandeep. This is all really boring. I'm sure nobody else is still listening to this
I'm
attempt to describe this, but put the melody in Kirvani rag, and then I truncated the melody so it was in Tintal rhythmic cycle, which is just 16 beats, and then Sandeep is free to go off on his thing, and then I can play this thing that I feel ownership of, that sets Sandeep up to do something that he feels ownership of, and that's sort of how that came to be.
I was very impressed. That was I found accompanying tabla to be an incredibly humbling experience in terms of it feels good sometimes, and you're like, we're going along and we feel great, and then they're like, we're gonna play the same thing, but it's gonna be in 5 now.
Right.
And then we're gonna go to 6, and then we're gonna go to 7, and then there's like the balance of listening but also kind of ignoring.
That's well said. Yeah. Sometimes the best thing I can do accompanying him is to ignore him so that he can predict what I'm going to do. Because if I try and adjust to him sometimes,
No.
then it's not actually helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. I know we're almost out of time, so I just want to again plug the new album, Where the Soul Never Dies.
That is the title. You got it. Thank
Where
you.
the Soul Never Dies. Everyone go follow Mike on all the things. He's a treasure. And I so appreciate you doing this.
It's good to see you, Kayla. I wish we could have talked about you more, actually, because I want to hear more about what you're up to.
Well, we can do that another time. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
we'll just
sometime.
we'll just get on a separate Zoom without anybody
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah.
Well, actually, after this ends, just like stay on so I can say goodbye. But
Okay.
I would love if you had a short Bach to play.
Do we always have to have a short Bach to play, right?
No.
Yeah, short is a good limiting adjective. I did end up recording all the Bach cello suites, so I have no excuse that I have something to play. How about I do the Courant from the third suite?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, I have to, before I forget, I was told by my wife to make a joke at some point during this session that actually I don't qualify for the title of this series anymore. But I appreciate your open-mindedness to include me in this floor fiddle series.
Inclusive at Floor Fiddle Fridays.
You're very welcoming and tolerant. Thank you. Okay, Courant from Bach Suite Number 3.
fancy it is when you're actually getting to dance.
Me too. Me too.
Really lovely. Thank you so much, Mike. This has been so fun. And thank you to everyone watching in the present and the future.
Thank you, Kaitlyn.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.